I've always been interested in the body or the way bodies move. The human body it's what we are, isn't it?
Flesh has fascinated artist Jenny Saville for as long as she can remember. And flesh, lots of it painted in unforgiving portraits of obese women, made her name. Her work has often been interpreted as a statement against stereotypical images of women. But she says it's body she's interested in. Male, female, perhaps neither. But they're all at the centre of her latest exhibition.
I wanted this idea of bodies together, managing to hold the kind of action of two bodies or three bodies together, and the moments of peace, the moments of movement in one. It was a challenge to try and see if I could do that.
A lot of people sort of took a political meaning out of your work with bodies and women's bodies particularly. Were they wrong to do that, or they can take what they like?
Yeah, I mean, people can take what they like, can't they? I mean, I think it's sometimes it's a little bit annoying to say, well, it's just about kind of female issues, because I don't feel like that at all. And you know, the kind of debate that's going on in myself about making these works is about memory and time, and is it possible that you can look at one body and see another body through it? So it's almost like you'll pivot between one perception and another perception, and that doesn't have anything to do with necessarily being in a female body, I think.
Her fascination with bodies extends to what people will endure to change them.
When I first went to New York and watched plastic surgery, it was so violent to watch a breast implant and a surgeon's fist inside a woman's body moving this flesh around that it was a shock. And I was interested in that bit between the before and after, and the notion that you were somehow sick, that you had a fictional normality. If only I had these breasts, I would be normal. So it was a fictional norm you were creating, and I found all that very fascinating, and not that it was bad or good for culture or bad for women or not, but just it's just fascinating.
It's interesting that you to pass no judgment.
I just always felt like that. I always felt that I've been an observer, I suppose, that I sort of drift around observing these things, and making work is my way of spitting that back out again or something.
Her latest exhibition continues to develop her observations on gender, which first emerged in her painting in the 90s.
Periodically I've worked with hermaphrodites and people who would play with their gender or were not specifically one way or another, and I find that interesting. I find that the idea of identity, I mean, transgender has grown enormously in the last 20 years, so and people who are just saying, well, my identity is not fixed over here or over here, I feel a little bit like this. And I'm convinced that in a female there are many masculine qualities, and in a male there are many female qualities, and we're often not encouraged to develop those parts of each other.
Jenny Saville was commissioned by the art collector Charles Saatchi almost straight after graduating to become one of his young British artists. It was a time of extraordinary opportunity, she says, which she worries is slipping away.
There's also the argument about poorer, state-educated people coming through in the art world too.
Well, I think that's no, I don't think it's still an issue. I think it's becoming an issue now, because it wasn't an issue. I think the reason why we've had such an incredibly brilliant sort of cultural moment in London, in the UK in general, is because of that 60s and 70s education system, where you didn't have to pay to go to university. You had a very, creative backbone to the education system, and doing art, drama was not something that, even if you wanted to study mathematics, you could still do something artistic. If you don't have that on the curriculum, in my opinion, you're going to have people who can answer questions that already exist.
In the last decade, Jenny Saville has had 2 children. She says the stereotypical notion of motherhood crushing creativity could not be further from reality for her.
It was a shock to me how incredibly creative I felt, because I've made loads of paintings and drawings, but you literally make flesh. And then as they grew, what kept shocking me is that their level of creativity was vast. I wanted some of their freedom, to be honest. It was looking at them and you see us scribbling across a piece of paper, mixing with paint. They'd just sit and mix it all up, and it looked fantastic.
So you learned from them?
Oh, absolutely, with no shadow of a doubt. Picasso was completely right when he said, I've tried 20, 30 years to paint like a child. He's so on the ball about it.